Prologue: A Kingdom Awaits. The late afternoon sun filtered through the grand arched windows of Buckingham Palace, casting golden beams across the marbled floor of the East drawing room. A subtle tension hummed beneath the polished elegance, the kind of tension only known in eras of change. A new age was dawning, not in rebellion or revolution, but through quiet, deliberate transition. The crown, the institution that had weathered centuries, was readying itself for the next great chapter. And at the heart of it stood a father and his son. Prince William, now the Prince of Wales and heir apparent, had summoned select members of the royal household and the press for what was called a generational pronouncement. The monarchy, always steeped in tradition, rarely offered surprises, but this announcement promised something unprecedented. At only 12 years old, Prince George of Wales, the eldest son of William and Catherine, was about to be entrusted with a vision for the future of the British monarchy. Chapter 1: A Prince in the Mirror. George stood in his bedroom, the soft brush of his school blazer barely rustling as he fidgeted before the mirror. He was tall for his age, with his father's jawline and his mother's poise. But his eyes, intelligent, curious, and often serious, told the story of a boy who carried the weight of centuries behind him. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. He wasn't naive. Though still attending prep school and playing football in the garden, George understood his destiny in fragments: the cameras, the bowed heads, the curtsies, the endless lessons in protocol. Yet today, something felt different. His father had spoken to him alone that morning, seated together on the stone bench in the palace gardens. "George," William had said with calm warmth, "it's time we share the future with the world. You are my son, but also the son of a nation. And today, you become its symbol." George had simply nodded, understanding not the magnitude, but the meaning. Chapter 2: The Gathering. The East drawing room was transformed into a modern throne room. Gone were the excessive trappings of old, no gilded chairs, no jewel-studded robes, but in their place, a contemporary elegance had taken hold. Minimalist banners bearing the royal arms flanked the space, and at the center, a circular podium stood where Prince William now addressed the room. Catherine stood beside George, her hand gently resting on his shoulder. The Queen Consort Camilla and King Charles III were notably absent. The king was still recovering in Balmoral after a recent health scare. In his stead, William had taken the lead, not in rebellion, but with his father's blessing. "I speak today," William began, his voice confident and resonant, not only as a son, a father, and a prince, but as a custodian of continuity. "The crown has endured wars, transitions, and political storms. But it must now evolve with intention. We are not just stewards of tradition, but architects of relevance." Gasps rippled lightly through the room. No royal had spoken with such contemporary clarity since the days of Diana. William continued, "It is my honor to declare Prince George of Wales the symbolic bearer of the royal ultimate inheritance, not in title alone, but in vision." The phrase itself, royal ultimate inheritance, had never been heard before in a public royal address. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Chapter 3: A New Inheritance. What was this inheritance? Contrary to tabloid expectations, George was not being crowned or titled anew. Instead, the royal ultimate inheritance was a conceptual gift, a living legacy. Crafted not from lands or jewels, but values and responsibilities. It was a declaration that George would grow to shape the monarchy not as a relic of the past, but as a reflection of modern Britain. The royal ultimate inheritance consisted of 4 sacred trusts: the stewardship of the people, a vow to listen, not rule, to serve communities regardless of class, creed, or color. The future monarch would be a connector, not a commander. The preservation of the planet, inspired by King Charles III and Prince William's environmental work, this trust emphasized a royal duty to champion sustainability, support green innovation, and live in harmony with nature. The guardianship of history and culture, a pledge to protect Britain's diverse cultural mosaic, elevate the arts, and ensure historical truth is never diluted. The commitment to global compassion, a reminder that Britain's monarchy, though national in form, had international eyes watching. George was to become a symbol of hope, diplomacy, and empathy around the world. It was not a crown of gold, but a crown of purpose. Chapter 4. The Boy Who Would Be King. In the weeks that followed the declaration, George's life subtly changed. He resumed his schooling, yes, but now traveled occasionally with his parents on carefully curated royal visits. Not for photo ops, but for learning. At the Eden Project in Cornwall, he learned about soil restoration. In Manchester, he visited shelters where former refugees taught him to cook traditional dishes from Syria and Sudan. In Scotland, he stood beside wind turbines and met engineers designing future energy grids. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. The public responded with unexpected warmth. Children wrote him letters. Teenagers created TikToks narrating his visits. Even critics of the monarchy conceded this was different. Behind closed doors, William and Catherine ensured he was still a boy. Soccer matches, Harry Potter marathons, and Sunday roasts never ceased. But they also knew that the time for preparing a modern monarch did not begin at 18, it began in quiet moments of planting seeds when young. Chapter 5. The World Watches. International media buzzed. CNN ran a special segment titled, The Crown's Young Visionary. Le Monde featured a column, Un héritier pas comme les autres. Even the New York Times, usually skeptical of monarchy, asked, Can purpose replace power? The Vatican sent a letter of blessings. The Commonwealth nations, some debating Republican transitions, paused to observe. In Australia, a poll showed a surprising spike in pro-monarchy sentiment, led largely by younger voters intrigued by George's new role. The royal family, typically reserved, embraced the attention. Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis appeared alongside George more frequently, forming a trio of youthful hope. It was not a PR stunt. It was a genuine generational renaissance. Chapter 6. The Legacy of Diana and the Lessons of Elizabeth. William's decision to bestow the royal ultimate inheritance was deeply personal. He had grown under the shadow of two monumental figures, Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Diana. From his grandmother, he inherited a sense of duty, discretion, and dignity. From his mother, he drew compassion, activism, and emotional intelligence. George would need both. He would need the iron and the velvet. William, ever aware of this dual legacy, told George one evening, You come from greatness, but your job isn't to replicate. It's to transform. To be a king the world hasn't seen before. One who leads not from above, but among. Chapter 7. A Crown Not Yet Worn. In truth, Prince George was still many years away from wearing the crown. But in a world spinning with change, climate crises, digital revolutions, shifting geopolitical tides, time could no longer be wasted in old royal timelines. By naming and framing the royal ultimate inheritance, Prince William had redefined monarchy not as a series of ceremonies, but as a narrative of evolution. And Prince George, a boy with school shoes and destiny-laced shoulders, had become the face of that narrative. Epilogue. The Promise of Tomorrow. Years from now, historians may point to this day, not as a coronation, not as a jubilee, but as a quiet revolution. The moment when a father looked to his son and said, You will inherit not only a crown, but a cause. The moment when Britain, and perhaps the world, saw that royalty could be reimagined not in grandeur, but in guidance. Not in supremacy, but in service. The crown's new era had begun, and Prince George, boy, heir, future king, now walked its path, with eyes wide open, and the world watching. Subscribe the channel to get such videos.